2 for do.
Duh.
I think we're gonna have part 3, part 4, part 5. No.
Oh, we're gonna have a lot of parts.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
You know.
So getting back to the beginning, then we after the Muslim band.
Yes.
We had Standing Rock.
Right now.
My name is Jacob Johns.
And where are you from?
I'm from Spokane, Washington. I'm Hopi and I'm a
And can you describe what you see, what they're doing?
They're bulldozing. They're bulldozing and preparing to install a pipeline to go underneath the river.
People have gone through the fence, men, women, and children. The bulldozers are still going, and they're yelling at the men in hard hats. One man in hard hat threw one of the protesters down, and they're marching over the dirt mounds. People are being pepper sprayed.
For the pipelines?
Yes.
Remember when they were trying to take all the property and stuff away from farmers and stuff to build their pipeline?
Yes.
One of which was very close to home, which is Pennsylvania and the Amish. Mm-hmm. I couldn't imagine them making the Amish sell their land so they could put a friggin' pipeline there, farms that have been hundreds of years in the family. And
right.
It was crazy. So Standing Rock, I mean, Betsy DeVos, taking away public schools and wanting to
Fundings.
do all the chartered schools.
The Special Olympics.
Oh my God! There's another.
Do that.
Well, where does he get these? But she had a money connection with. I think it was
her brother,
right?
Was the president
Another
of
scandal.
Yes, was.
Major plot twist of the Trump era is the return of Eric Prince, the brother of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos and notorious founder of the mercenary company once called Blackwater. Prince was part of an effort to set up a meeting that actually happened with a Russian fund manager in the Seychelles. There was also a strange meeting during the campaign at Trump Tower that seems to have been forgotten about. As the New York Times first reported, 3 months before the election, Donald Trump Jr. met with a Gulf state emissary who was offering to help Donald Trump win the election. Eric Prince, the private security contractor, former head of Blackwater, arranged the meeting, which took place August 3rd, 2016 in Trump Tower.
So the national security advisor at the time was Michael Flynn. Mm-hmm. And of course he retired. We're still waiting to see what punishment he gets for all the things that he's done.
Michael Flynn's resignation as National Security Advisor after only just over 3 weeks on the job had been brewing for days. The retired general had become a lightning rod for criticism over his ties with Russia.
No, he was conferring, though, with the Russians during the election, because remember he was sitting there at that table with Putin?
Yeah, his best friend.
Yeah.
It was a relationship dating back to 2015 when Flynn sat right next to Vladimir Putin at a dinner in Moscow.
Remember the phone call and the inauguration?
That same day, Flynn had several phone calls with the Russian ambassador to the United States. Acting Attorney General Sally Yates told White House counsel Don McGahn that Flynn misled the administration about his communications with the Russians and was potentially vulnerable to blackmail.
What do you make of reports that General Flynn had conversations with the Russians about sanctions before you were sworn in?
I don't know about it. I haven't seen it. What report is that? I haven't seen it.
Reporting that he talked to the ambassador to Russia before you were inaugurated about sanctions, maybe trying to...
I haven't seen that. I'll look at that.
Something like that. Remember Rex Tillerson then was Secretary of State
I feel
and
that
CEO of Exxon. What the hell happened to him?
Well, listen, he grew smart, and I believe he was one of the only ones in that job title to really take his job serious.
It was challenging for me, coming from the disciplined, highly process-oriented ExxonMobil Corporation, to go to work for a man who is pretty undisciplined, doesn't like to read, doesn't read briefing reports, doesn't like to get into the details of a lot of things, but rather just kind of says, look, this is what I believe, and you can try to convince me otherwise, but most of the time you're not going to do that.
How did your relationship go off the rails?
Well, I think part of it was obviously we are starkly different in our styles. We did not have a common value system. When the president would say, well, here's what I want to do, and here's how I want to do it. And I'd have to say to him, well, Mr. President, I understand what you want to do, but you can't do it that way. It violates the law. It violates a treaty. You know, he got really frustrated. I didn't know how to conduct my affairs with him any other way than in a very straightforward fashion. And I think he grew tired of me being the guy every day that told him you can't do that.
I felt like there was a lot of things that the reason why he left was because the things that he was advising Trump to do, it was against what Trump wanted to do.
Right.
And there was a lot of things that, you know, they didn't agree upon. So I felt like he saw what was going on behind the scenes, and he was like, I can't be a part of this.
What a little baby.
Yeah,
baby.
I run this,
You know,
and I'm gonna run that. So
remember also, I mean, these are things that just slip through the cracks, but you really have to think, like, gathered the accumulation of all these little things that add up to trying to break down a democracy. Remember when they shut down all the government sites?
Yes.
You know, they did that. The websites went down. Because they didn't want people on them commenting on, like, what was going on.
They shut down the sites because they wanted to reword and revamp that
whole thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
To their benefit, actually.
Right.
And not allow, you know, constituents to come on there and see it, you know?
Right. So, and then another big thing, and God bless Elizabeth Warren, the woman, you know, she has some guts going on there with all the stuff that's going on. But her first thing that just really blew me away that she did was speaking on the floor, the Senate floor, of Jeff Sessions' nomination for Attorney General. When she was speaking, remember how they took her off the floor?
They are mothers, daughters, sisters, fathers, sons, and brothers.
Mr. President.
They are...
Mr. President.
The Majority Leader.
The senators impugn the motives and conduct of our colleague from Alabama as warned by the chair. Senator Warren, quote, said Senator Sessions has used the awesome power of his office to chill the free exercise of the vote by black citizens. I call the senator to order under the provisions of Rule 19.
Mr. President.
The Senator from Massachusetts.
Mr. President, I am surprised that the words of Coretta Scott King are not suitable for debate in the United States Senate. I ask leave of the Senate to continue my remarks.
Is there objection?
Object.
I appeal the ruling.
Objection is heard. The senator will take her seat.
Mr. President. I appeal the ruling of the chair, and I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.
They took her off the floor because they didn't want to hear her.
No, they didn't allow her to speak.
Yeah, well, she was talking the truth, and Bernie Sanders too was in there talking about corporate money and corporate tax and these billionaires taking, you know, and the Koch brothers and the Rothschilds. And he was just naming all of them, you know.
All
and
of
they
them.
would look at him like he's crazy. What's this crazy old guy saying? But he's saying the truth.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Right.
You know?
So they shut them down. And then at the time, Sally Yates was acting attorney general.
Oh, they did. They got rid of her fast.
They fired her for defying Trump on the travel ban.
The White House says she betrayed the Justice Department. But tonight, Democrats are embracing former acting attorney general Sally Yates as a hero.
I know Sally Yates as a person of integrity.
Sally Yates stood her ground.
That statement took guts.
Yates sent shockwaves through Washington with her announcement that the Justice Department would not defend the president's executive order. In a dramatic letter to department attorneys, she questioned whether the immigration ban was consistent with this institution's solemn obligation to always seek justice and stand for what is right, adding she's not convinced that the executive order is lawful. Within 3 hours, Yates, an Obama holdover, was out, fired by President Trump.
And not only
She
that,
was against it.
She was against it.
Yes.
And also because she was an Obama appointee. So the reason why they wanted to get rid of her, because they wanted to get rid of anybody Obama.
Right.
They didn't want to keep nobody.
And they
there.
still are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they still are.
So, Trump rescinds rules on bathrooms for transgender students.
Yes.
Overnight, protesters taking their battle cry for transgender rights directly to the White House.
Shame on Trump! Protect the trans students!
Accusing the Trump administration of delivering a major blow.
Trans equality now!
In a late-night decision, the White House reversed guidelines issued under President Obama. Public schools no longer required to allow transgender students to use the bathroom of their choice. Top Democrats calling the reversal just plain wrong and saying civil rights are not confusing.
And Sessions, who actually got the was the Attorney General, opposed expanding gay, lesbian, and transgender rights. That whole thing was just crazy, and it goes to show once again the disconnect of the people in our country and how even racism besides that, this whole
right. Well, because of the fact that these people are conservatives, right, and they only run on one trick pony mind, and they have an ideology, and they feel like the reason why they took that out was because their excuse was, well, there's nothing in the Civil Rights Act to protect the LGBTQ community.
President Trump is banning transgender people from the United States military. He says it's because the military can't be, quote, burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail, end quote. The statement contrasts strongly with the more LGBT-friendly tone he struck during his presidential campaign, portraying himself as a champion of LGBT rights at the RNC.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
In June, the Pentagon announced a freeze on allowing new transgender recruits to the military to review how they would impact, quote, the readiness and lethality of our forces, end quote.
So we're gonna just take that out, and we're not gonna, imply those rules. So they have no rights. So that's why they felt like, since there was nothing there. But mind you, how long ago was those rights written?
Right, exactly.
So, that was back in the,
Thus,
50s,
the
60s?
deconstruction of continuing with little bits, chipping away little pieces,
Yeah.
which, as a whole, if you look at it, man, he's really has friggin'...
You can say it.
Yeah. So, and that was only like a first little part, and then we come to Mexico will pay for the wall, and it's like when that came out, I'm like, and it was something with Australia too, right?
Something with Australia. I'm not too sure about Australia, but we was just focused on Mexico.
Yeah.
And, even the ex-president of Mexico say, I loved his little schmeals on TV.
That the country of Mexico will be reimbursing the United States for the full cost of such a wall.
But we're going to stop it. Don't worry, we're building the wall. Don't worry.
We have to have a wall.
The wall is not going to be paid by Mexico. Trump knows that. Kelly knows that. Even Congress in Mexico has decided and forbidden even for the president to sit down and discuss an issue that we're not even going to discuss.
Like cursing Trump out?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're not going to pay for the damn wall.
Right. And he did try to stick up for Mexico.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But then the new president came in from Mexico.
Right.
Which it turned out to be, he's corrupt himself, and he's with the cartels. So, this is something that basically we didn't see that coming, like as far as the new Mexico president coming in. And until his little corruption started to leak out, so That's why there was so catch-22 in that situation.